Pope Francis' funeral updates. Leaders, mourners bid farewell to pontiff. Here's what happened today. We'll be closing this live page soon, so let's bring you up to speed with today's main developments. The funeral of Pope Francis has taken place at St. Peter's Square in the Vatican. The late pontiff wanted to build bridges, not walls, presiding Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re said during the funeral homily. The nearly 3-hour-long ceremony was attended by world leaders and hundreds of thousands of mourners. After its conclusion, Francis's coffin was driven to a basilica in Rome for burial. Along the way, tens of thousands of people lining the streets of the Italian capital erupted into applause as the Pope mobile with Francis's coffin drove past. Photos: Grand Vatican farewell for Pope Francis. From some of the world's most powerful leaders to those on society's margins whom Pope Francis always made a point to minister to, hundreds of thousands of people gathered at the Vatican for the funeral rites for the late pontiff. Who could be the next pope? The current group of cardinals aged under 80 who make up the conclave is notably more diverse than previous electors, with a high representation from Asia, Africa, and Latin America. As a result, there is a possibility that, for the first time in centuries, the next pope could come from Africa or Asia, or another region traditionally underrepresented in the Church's leadership. Among the African cardinals being discussed are Ghana's Peter Turkson, the former head of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo's Fridolin Ambongo, Archbishop of Kinshasa. Both are committed conservatives who have been vocal advocates for peace in their respective countries. Another strong contender is Philippine Cardinal Luis Tagle, the former Archbishop of Manila. Like Pope Francis, Tagle emphasizes social justice and caring for the poor. Hungarian Cardinal Peter Erdo is seen as a leading conservative candidate and could serve as a bridge to Eastern Christians. The Archbishop of Esztergom Budapest, Erdo, is a traditionalist who has championed outreach to Orthodox Christians, stressing the desperate need for unity between the churches. Also in the mix is Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Holy See's Secretary of State, whose top diplomatic role ensures he is well known by all cardinals. The election of the new pope. What to know? After the death of a pope, the Vatican enters a transitional period called the sede vacante or interregnum, where power is handed over to the College of Cardinals, but no important decisions are made until the papacy is filled. About 15 to 20 days after the pope's death, cardinals below the age of 80 convene at the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City, which is sealed off, to elect the new pontiff through a secret ballot. Voting takes place in up to 4 rounds a day until a candidate wins 2/3 of the vote. If there is no decision after 33 rounds of voting, the top 2 candidates face off in a runoff vote. Ballots are burned, and for every unsuccessful vote, black smoke is released from the Sistine Chapel. Once the next pope is elected, white smoke emerges from the chapel. Not just Trump. Which world leaders did Pope Francis clash with? Pope Francis has been remembered by many for embracing communities and challenges that the Roman Catholic Church had carefully avoided previously. However, many of those issues, among them the wars in Gaza and Ukraine, climate change and immigration, also put Francis on a collision course with several leaders from around the world. So which leaders did the Pope disagree with, and what were the issues that drove those differences? Check out this piece to find out. Fiorello Maffei, who lives in London, had returned to Italy for the now postponed canonization of Carlo Acutis. He said he and his wife, who is from Paraguay and also a devout Catholic, found the ceremony very touching and full of simple words and messages of love that still carried great weight. Maffei said this epitomized Pope Francis, who didn't overcomplicate his messages during communication with people, adding it pleased him that world leaders such as Trump had to listen to these messages of peace. In a new statement, the Vatican says some 150,000 people lined the streets of the Italian capital to watch Pope Francis's coffin being driven to his final resting place, in Rome's Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica. Here's the latest information on the talks between Zelensky and Trump on the sidelines of the funeral that we've been reporting on throughout the day. In a social media post, the Ukrainian president described the meeting with his U.S. counterpart as good. Very symbolic meeting that has potential to become historic if we achieve joint results, Zelensky wrote, thanking Trump. We discussed a lot one-on-one.